Welcome to Startup TV Boston. My name is Michael McCarthy, and I'm the instructor for Harvard Extension School's Entrepreneurship and Innovation class. And I'd like to invite our guest today, Rice Inc. Welcome, Rice. How are you?
Hi.
Hello, we're doing good. Thanks for having us.
Welcome. So from right to left, could you share with us your names, introduce yourself, and where you're from?
Okay. Hi, my name is Lincoln. I'm currently studying at UCL in London, but I originally hail from Malaysia.
Right. Hi, this is Benny. So I come from Malaysia. I'm currently studying economics at UCL.
Hi, my name is Kisam. I'm from Hong Kong. I'm also from UCL, studying the biomedical sciences as well.
Excellent. Well, welcome, team. And I see that your team name is Rice Inc. Kisam, can you tell us what is Rice Inc.?
So Rice Inc. is a supply chain solution that's designed to democratize the rice supply chain in developing countries, specifically targeted in these developing countries. We provide access to modern agricultural technologies, which they wouldn't have otherwise been able to afford.
Excellent. And just a few weeks ago, I actually met Rice Inc. at the United Nations, where they won $1 million from the $1 million Hult Prize. So congratulations. You're my newest millionaire friend, so good to have you on the show. Danny, can you share with us what is the Hult Prize and the $1 million? What is that for?
Is it me? Yeah. Right, sure.
Yes.
So the Hult Prize is one of the largest student social enterprise competition. It's being held on an annual basis. And it has several rounds from campus to regionals to the United Nations finals. So what it does is it's trying to encourage students to participate in setting up social entrepreneurships for profit and also creating impact at the same time. So luckily for us, we managed to win the 1 million seed funding from the Hult Prize, and we are really humbled and honored to be able to win the award. Yeah.
Congratulations again. So the Hult Prize every year has a specific challenge. Lincoln, can you share with us what was this year's challenge for the Hult Prize?
So this year's specific challenge was to harness the power of energy to transform 10 million lives by 2025. And they gave us 6 different industries which we could choose from to focus our business on.
And Kisam, when did you first hear about the Hult Prize? When was the first time you ever heard about it?
So the first time I heard about it was actually from UCL's campus director. Her name is Masha, and this was the first year Hult Prize on campus came to UCL, and she was starting it up for the first time, and she needed a bit of media coverage and like to spread the awareness within the student body at UCL. So I was involved in a society, the Life Sciences Society at my school, and she approached me to share the event at the group in like our Facebook groups and social media. And after around like 3 times she asked me to do this, Lincoln was actually there, and I was like, why not we take part in it as well? And there you go.
And Danny, how did you hear about it?
So I actually heard it from Lincoln. So I remember, so I actually joined the group slightly later than both of them. So I joined the team at around June. So I remember the first time I heard about it was when Lincoln just suddenly Facebook messaged me asking me, hey, Vanny, are you free over the summer? Do you want to plant paddy? And I was like, wait, what? And then after that, he started pitching to me about what Rice Inc. was and what's Hult Prize. And that's the first time I actually heard about it.
Excellent. So where did the first idea come from? How did the rice idea come up? Which one of you started with that?
So what happened was it was during the campus round, and we had like a week to the competition, and we realized we were bouncing off a lot of ideas. We had everything ranging from solar-powered lampposts to vertical farming. None of the ideas really stuck, and so that's when we realized that we were looking for an idea and then a problem. And we decided to flip it around and let's go and look for problems instead. And so we literally went back to the case challenge and went through each industry. And when we came to the agriculture section, we were searching it online. I came across an article that said 80% of all of rice is wasted. And like Kisam's face at the time was like, what? how can that happen? And all of us also had this sort of moment where we're like, how? Like we eat rice every day, like and like where we grew up, like everyone eats it every day. How is 80% of it being wasted? And it was just that because it stuck to us so well, we were like, oh, let's look into it further. And so for the next 3 days, it was just researching deeper and deeper about the entire industry and the problems that it faced. And suddenly one day, the idea just clicked, or like the solutions just fell into place. And from then on, there was no stopping us.
So the statistic was correct. 80% of all rice is wasted?
No, in hindsight, when we researched further, that's an extremely inflated figure from like perhaps one region of the world. It's more closer to 30% at the moment, which is still quite significant considering it's a staple of the world. And so, yeah.
But so that's good. In hindsight, you were inspired by fake data.
You could say
You could
that.
put it that way, Michael.
Okay. Well, 30%, that's still a lot of rice to be wasted. So excellent. Okay, so I like this idea that you were originally a solution looking for a problem, which is something a lot of people do. Instead, you were just looking for a problem, and then can we solve that? So when you saw that this was a big problem, that so much rice is being wasted, what was the solution? What was like the little spark of idea before we get into your actual pitch? What was the spark of the solution?
I guess we initially started looking for, so this is a pretty big problem. 30% of rice is wasted. There's a whole rice supply chain, and at every stage, there was so much rice being wasted. And the spark was we identified a certain part in the beginning of the supply chain, which we'll talk about more in our pitch later, where we realized that a lot of rice, even though it's not directly being wasted there, it contributed to immense waste later down the supply chain. And after we found that problem, so this turned out to be drying, as we'll explain later on, the drying stage of the rice supply chain. But when we researched further, we found that the technologies to combat this loss was actually all out there. It's on the market. People were just unable to use it. Farmers were just unable to use it. And that was the spark.
Interesting. So the solution was already there. It just wasn't being put together properly.
Exactly.
Well, I think with that, now we're excited to see your pitch. I'd like to invite you to do share screen and just give us your pitch. And I know for the United Nations, it was a 6-minute pitch for $1 million. Feel free to take as much time as you like, and there will be no $1 million, but we would love to understand how your project's working.
That's not what we were promised, Michael. I thought we were running for our second million.
Whatever it takes you to say yes to be on the show.
Well, you got us here, and now we just have to start.
Excellent. Welcome.
Okay, so what do these numbers mean to you? $83 million total profit that Sunrise generates, 15 billion bowls of rice, the energy of which Rice Inc. harnesses, and 49 million lives transformed by 2025. We first thought that we would make just a small dent in the universe by helping smallholder farmers dry their rice better instead of them drying it on the side of streets. But then we realized if we added just one more element to our solution, we could have so much more impact. And so we pivoted. How does rice work? Harnessing the energy of the sun, rice seeds are grown and harvested as what we call wet paddy twice a year. But after rice is harvested, it needs to be dried. And before it becomes rice ready for your table, it also needs to be milled. But smallholder farmers around the world use traditional sun drying practices that cause up to 20% grain loss, and which means that they make barely enough to put food on the table and require multiple cycles of debt in order to pay for something as simple as their child's education. This annual loss is valued at $45 billion every year. The reason for this loss is because farmers take home only a tiny fraction of the value of their crop, because prices are dictated by those that come next in the supply chain, the big millers. Millers wield absolute power over price of rice during harvest because farmers need money instantly to pay back the debts that allowed them to plant in the first place. The amount of farmers affected by this in Southeast Asia is a staggering 70 million, with 2.8 in Myanmar, our target region alone. So Rice Inc. plans to change this by bringing a sustainable, standardized, zero cost to the farmer solution, a dry and store solution that is easy for them to scale and adopt. We want to democratize the rice supply chain. So here's how it works. Farmers during harvest bring their wet paddy to their local Rice Inc. hub during harvest, and we'll help them dry their rice with our biomass dryer. It's a proven existing technology that 80% of farmers in Myanmar don't have access to. After drying, we'll store their rice for them, and after a period of 2 months, Rice Inc. will sell the rice on behalf of the farmer, leveraging off-peak prices to get them the best price. And now farmers don't have to face a big miller alone. Without Sunrise, the best a farmer would have earned is roughly $160 to $170, and he would have taken home $42 out of that. But with now, farmers take home up to $210 and earn up to $210 and take home double, which is $84. However, during harvest, we pay farmers a small percentage upfront in order for them to cover their living costs before we sell it. But during harvest, we actually sell it for off-season, we actually sell it for a total of $250. So we give them about 85%, that's their $210, and we take the remainder to plow back into our operations and to scale. So each Sunrise Hub is able to service about 1,500 tons of rice every year, perfect for one village in Myanmar. And it's able to generate a revenue of $375,000 and a gross profit of $43,000, giving us a 5-month payback period.
So with Rice Inc., farmers are able to gain higher yield and quality of their rice. They're able to command higher prices for this rice, and also have their rice dried 24 times faster, reducing drying times from 5 whole days to just a mere 5 hours using the biomass dryer. And what's more is that with Rice Inc., we're able to use we're able to leverage waste in the whole supply chain. We use rice husks, a byproduct from the milling stage of the supply chain, use that as a fuel for our biomass furnaces. And by burning this, and preventing it from going to the garbage dumps, which is currently what happens, we actually save millions of tons of carbon gases that would have otherwise been emitted to the atmosphere from just letting it rot. And by doing this, we also save the millions of tons of rice that would have otherwise been lost through traditional drying practices. And so we actually went to the ground in Myanmar to try this out. And we're happy to say that in our pilot village, after talking to many villages, we have garnered the support of 23 farmers who have already pre-ordered 500 tons of their rice ready to be dried next week. And what's more is that in order to scale within these villages of Myanmar, we're leveraging the use of influencer farmers, trusted farmers in the village community, whom we place our Rice Inc. hubs in their lands, and we also pay them a commission for every ton of rice that they help us dry. And to spread to other villages, we're leveraging the existing rice ecosystem and geography there. So these villages, these rice farming villages, are around 200 of them make up one township. And these townships are governed by township mayors. These are key influential people that will help us spread and cascade our impact from township to village to farmers by introducing Rice Inc. and the benefits. In order to really tap into these key players, our partner, the International Rice Research Institute, is helping us. IRRI for short. They are the biggest rice NGO in the world, and they've had operations in Myanmar for around 30 years, amongst their other 50 plus countries, rice producing countries that they work in. And with their support, and they've already introduced us to these key township officials. In fact, we have 6 more villages already in our pipeline, ready to install our rice hubs. And that translates to 300 more farmers and 6,000 more tons of rice ready in our pipeline, ready to go. In the very first year, with $600,000 in of the 1 million, we would be able to install 14 hubs, and that's in the first year. But that translates to 3,000 hubs by 2025, generating a total of $83 million in profit. But most investors seek 10 times impact, 10 times profits. But we also provide 10 times the impact. Not only are we reusing waste, we're saving millions of tons of rice that would have otherwise been lost. That translates to 15 billion more bowls of rice that will end up on the world's dining tables by 2025. And by doing this, we're harnessing all of this energy that would have otherwise been lost to impact the lives of 49 million people, all by 2025. Thank you.
Okay, excellent presentation. Thank you for I love the slides. Feel free to unshare your screen, and then we'll be able to see you in a larger picture again. That was nice. I love it. It's beautiful slides. It looks like it just took tons of work to get that done. I have a couple questions for you though. It seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of the money here is the fact that you can wait the 2 months for the price of rice to go up. Is that one of the linchpins of why this model is working?
Yes. Yeah.
So do you have an estimate of what the price of rice increases in that 2-month period?
Okay, so during off-season, according to our customer interviews with more than 100 farmers, the price of rice is about $250 per ton. Whereas if they sell it immediately after harvest, because there's abundance of supply in the market at that moment, it's usually around $160 per ton.
Okay, so that's a pretty big percentage increase, and that's where the farmers are able to make more money and you're able to get your commission. So you're not actually taking advantage of anyone, you're just simply taking advantage of supply and demand. Excellent. And so you actually need the $1 million in cash so that you're paying those farmers at harvest time so that they can wait the 2 months before they get the larger paycheck later.
Yes, that's right.
So you're a bit of a bank on a certain level.
You could say that, rice bank per se.
Rice bank, okay. That sounds like another company coming along.
Somewhere down the line.
Somewhere down the right, you're busy enough, school and running a new company. So about the influencers, why are you using influencers instead of any other way to grow the business? So this is basically referral marketing is what you're doing. I'm just curious, why did you go that route?
I guess a lot of these, so after doing our customer interviews and going on the ground and speaking to everyone, seemingly everyone in the rice supply chain, from farmers to rice scientists to the other big players in the industry, because the smallholder farmer demographic, that encompasses 80% of Myanmar, the amount of rice that Myanmar grows. It's that whole segment. It's really dependent on trust between and inside village communities. And there are key players within these village communities that are more trusted than others. And by being able to leverage the popularity and influence of these players, we'd be able to basically quickly spread our, gain more customers that way. Because we are doing it in a village by village setting. So on top of that, we're also getting the support of the local departments of agriculture. So that'll almost compound our influence in gaining more customers with the support of these influencer farmers.
And why are you starting this off in Myanmar? Was there any reason why you decided to go there?
So actually, in the beginning, we thought we were going to Vietnam, but it was before we contacted our partners. So the first thing we did with our partners was actually we pitched our idea to them, and we asked them, we know that what you see online isn't exactly representative on the ground. So could you tell us which country we should go to or which country we should look at? And that's when they recommended Myanmar. And in hindsight, after going to Myanmar about like 5 or 6 times, we realized that they recommended it to us because the market in Myanmar is ready. The technology is there, but it's in its infancy, but people are aware about it. Secondly, the rice industry is sort of like ripe for disruption because their government recently opened doors to foreign investment in the past 2 or 3 years. And everyone there is just ready to sort of take on some sort of new technology, and they're really open to new ideas. Like when we first visited the villages, they were telling us, like, they were just asking questions about where we came from because they were just so unused to the idea of having visitors. And they couldn't believe that someone would want to come and actually help them. And so it was a really open and welcoming society, and also the industry needed a lot of interventions. So it was about the readiness of the market.
Yes.
So it sounds like it all kind of gets wrapped into, it was really good timing. There's some awareness that there's some technology out there. They're ready for disruption, and they're nice people.
Yeah.
That sounds like the other one. So how long do you think it's going to be before you have could declare like mission accomplished in Myanmar? How many years do you think you'll need to be there before you feel like, okay, our work is done?
To be fair, like based on our projections, by 2025, with the $83 million in profits, we are actually just impacting 5% of the entire Myanmar market. So to say that we have managed to conquer an entire Myanmar, it probably take a long way. But like the fact that we are able to like by like impacting 5% of the market, we are already being able to achieve so much impact and help so many people. I think like that's a pretty good.
Okay.
I guess like that's a question of when do we want to stop helping people, right? Because you can't really, what is our end goal? Yeah. But to get every Myanmar farmer above the poverty line, that's one of the baselines that we've set as our goals.
Excellent. And have you identified other countries that you think would be good candidates to move into that would have the same thing? They're aware, they're ripe for disruption, and they would be welcoming to something like this. Are there other countries that you think would be good as well to expand into?
So in the region of Southeast Asia, there are another country that we're looking at is Indonesia. And actually the market in Indonesia is 10 times bigger than Myanmar. It's just that it's a bit more, what do you call it? It's a bit, yes, it's a bit more like it's divided, fragmented. Yeah, that's the word. It's a bit more fragmented. But that's definitely where we're looking to go at next.
And beyond Indonesia, and I know that 10 times bigger is big enough, are there other countries that you think would fit for your model? So we have Myanmar, we have Indonesia. Are there other countries where you think it would work?
Yep. So Laos, Philippines, just in the region. But if you look further, other continents grow rice as well. Africa, in Nigeria, and even in Latin America, there are places that grow rice to a large extent. But what's interesting is that our solution and technology is actually applicable to other staple diets as well. So like wheat, corn, even chili, and actually even coffees need drying. And farmers also face similar solutions where they use sun drying methods. They're not able to take advantage of off-peak prices, and they just really need some sort of system that helps them wait out the 2 months. And so we've actually done a study for coffee in Ecuador, so going as far away as possible and something totally different. And actually our solution fit the situation on the ground, showing that we can not only expand like into other countries, but we can also expand laterally into other industries.
Interesting. Okay. Now, in the 4 minutes we have left in the show, what are you doing as far as next steps? Like, what have you done since you won the Hult Prize a few weeks ago? What's actually happened?
Okay, so I returned back to Myanmar because the harvest started a week after the Hult prize, and actually our first hub finished building on the day we won the prize.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went back there to make sure everything was running properly. And while Kisam and Vanny handled much of the legal documentation that needed to happen to set up the company. And actually, what's interesting was our second customer in Myanmar. She's a single mom, taking care of her daughters, but she's also a farmer. And it just so happened that through no fault of her own, this harvest, her rice was too wet. It was way off the charts, above anything we've seen before. And so basically, no miller would have wanted to buy it. It was unsellable. And she lives, for them who live day to day, this means that 6 months of her income is just gone. But because it so happened that we had a dryer there, she didn't ignore the fact that she can wait out the 2 months and get money later on. But because she was able to dry, she was able to sell. And so we were able to give her basically 6 months of income for her to feed the kids, for her to put food on the table, and for her to continue her livelihood. And so that was that really hit me when I went to the village, because she was just there and she was thanking us profusely, and we didn't know what had happened. And when they explained to us what happened, we were just wow, it hit you hard. It hit all of us hard when I told the team.
Yes.
Excellent. So what are your first steps in spending the money? What's going to be the first allocation of the $1 million? Where's it going?
I think for now, we are trying to make sure that our first hub is running as efficiently and as error-free as possible. So that money will go into maintaining the current hub. And also we are trying to set up as many hubs as we can in the first year. So we are currently looking at around 6 hubs to be set up by the end of next year. While also we are exploring other opportunities to go down further in the line. For example, maybe coming up with a consumer brand, impact-focused consumer rice brand in the future. And so some of the money can be channeled into exploring that opportunity as well.
I think that's an interesting idea, where you would brand your rice so that people could see it's more. Americans love that, especially. We'll pay more for your rice if we knew that that's where it came from. So I think there's actually, there is an interesting branding opportunity. In the last 30 seconds that we have in the show today, what are some final thoughts that you would like us to remember about Rice Inc.? What are some takeaways you'd like us to remember? Kisam, I'll start with you. What's one thing you'd like us to remember?
I guess one thing would be, no matter how difficult the situation gets, never stop going. Whether you're stuck in the middle of a Myanmar jungle at around 12 a.m. when your car has broken down, the nearest town is an hour away, or whether you get issued a cease and desist by a $1 billion company that 2 weeks before the UN pitch. Whatever adversity comes your way, it's if the core problem that you're trying to solve, you're passionate in that and trying to solve that problem, then everything's possible. So what I learned was find that problem and then go for it.
Excellent. I love it. And on that note, thank you so much for all the time that you spent with us. Lincoln, Vanny, Kisam, thank you so much. And we would love to have you on the show 1 year from today so that we could do a snapshot and see how you're doing. Would you be open to coming back on the show?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
As long as you're not stuck in the jungle in Myanmar, we'll have you on. How's that?
Hopefully that doesn't repeat again.
Okay, plan for it. Everyone, thank you so much for being on the show, and we will see you in exactly 1 year. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much, Michael.